Yo, what is up guys? You are joining me here in my very nearly completed Ram ProMaster 3500 moto slash camper van that I spent a couple of months this winter and spring building out right here in my very own driveway. It was an epic adventure battling the snow, rain, wind, below freezing temperatures, but overall, I could not be happier with how this thing turned out, and I am super excited to finally show you guys everything that went into the build process and then finally give you guys a tour of the van, because I know it's something you guys have been waiting for a really long time. This is a fully DIY project here. I did 99% of the work myself. I had a little bit of knowledge from my professional mountain bike friend David Lieb, who's built out a couple of his own really amazing mountain bike camper vans, so big shout out to David. And then of course I had my dad here lending me a hand whenever my own two were not quite enough to get the job done. I definitely don't have a crazy background in carpentry or electrical or doing seamstress type stuff or anything like that. Up until the van, really my only DIY projects were of course building out my race shop, which was just an empty shell of a barn. I did all of the drywall, studding, insulation, wiring, lights, all that stuff myself, installing the furnace, the security, all that sort of stuff, and that turned out way better than I ever could have hoped. But overall, very minimal DIY experience, and kind of why I wanted to document this whole process is just to show you guys that even if you have no experience at all, if I can do it, you guys can 100% do it. I know probably a lot of you out there have moto vans and maybe you've thought about building one out, but you just thought maybe you didn't have the skills or the tools or something like that. Well, I'm hoping that by the end of this series, you guys will realize that you are totally capable and the outcome is 100% worth it, and you should send it. A little info on the van before we begin. This is a 2016 Ram ProMaster 3500, fully extended, tall roof. So this is as big and bad as the ProMaster comes. We bought it with 80,000 miles on it back in 2019. That was right when the YouTube and my professional racing was just kind of taking off. I knew I needed to get a more serious vehicle than my previous van because I knew I was going to be doing some serious riding and traveling in this thing. And the goal was always to do a really big build like this on it. But to be honest, when I got this thing, I was down in an apartment in Florida. I was a college kid with no experience, no tools, no anything. The season was rapidly approaching and I knew I just had to throw something together and get on the road. I had some help from Bridget's dad, who's pretty handy, and we did such a decent job that I just could never justify ripping it all out and completely redoing it. It was totally functional, got me to and from the practice tracks with everything that I needed. And if I ever needed to make a long trip out to California or something, as long as I had a place to stay, I could pack my entire life in this thing and quickly and efficiently get to where I was going. I could pull over and sleep in it if I really had to, but it really wasn't meant for that. And that was the biggest thing that I wanted to change. I love our little compound that Bridge and I have built here up in Michigan, but as you guys could probably guess, Michigan weather is not always conducive to riding and racing your dirt bike, but it's very hard to financially make some long trips during the winter to get away from here, with prices skyrocketing, fuel, hotels, Airbnbs, all that sort of thing. I knew that my best option was to build this thing out as good as I possibly could so that if I needed to spend a couple weeks or a month living out of here, that was going to be totally doable. And of course, being that the first 3 rounds of the pro motocross season are out in California, I sort of had a time crunch to get this thing done and get on my road for my very first trip in this thing, which obviously that's already happened. It worked out amazingly. Could not be happier with the build. And yeah, now I'm just excited to plan out some more trips. Definitely gonna be going down to Florida this winter and checking out some tracks and yeah, meeting up with more of you guys and doing some ride days and stuff. So far it's been incredible, but that's not why you guys are here. You wanna see the journey and I wanna show it to you. So let me throw it back to, I think it was February when I started this build, and I'll show you guys exactly what went into building my dream moto camper van. So I hope you guys enjoy this series. It was a really fun one to film. So without further ado, let's kick it back in time. And you know what? It's finally time for me to just put my big boy pants on, pull the trigger, and start building this thing out. I think I have a pretty good idea of what I want to do and how I'm going to do it, and I really don't think it's going to be that difficult. So in this episode, it's kind of the introduction, and I'll show you guys kind of what my plans are. But first things first, I kind of have to undo the stuff that I have done already. so that I can get down to basically just the plywood floor. Like, I'm gonna completely redo the walls and everything. I have very carefully 3D modeled the inside of it on my computer. But of course, I kind of need to empty everything out before I can get exact measurements of the inside of the van. So yeah, step one, I guess, let's go ahead and get this thing fully emptied out, and we'll take a look at it and see where we're gonna go from there. My janky little couch setup, obviously, I do not quite fit on this thing. Not very nicely anyways, so yeah, that's got to be the first thing to go. I don't even really know what I was thinking when I built this. Like, I'm using full-on 2x4s and like 3/4 inch plywood in here, which is just so unnecessary for a van. So after learning more about how to build things, like, this is probably 25 pounds right here, and it does not need to be that heavy. More than time to redo this thing, that's for sure. One couch removed. Guess I was in 24th at the last national, wherever that was. If I'm being perfectly honest here, I'm not even sure I really remember how I put this thing together. It looks wild, so I think I'm just gonna, I thought maybe I was gonna be able to just kind of disconnect it from the wall and pull it all out together, but I think it's just gonna come out piece by piece, and you know what? That's fine. Let's carry on. Oh, there we go, she's flopping. Oh yeah. That's the first time that wheel well has seen sunlight in 5 years, I guess, 4 years. And there's some spider web down in there. I'm sure there was a mouse living in there at some point. Who freaking knows? But I'm almost a little bit excited to, oh, look at that. Just as I was about to say, I'm almost a little excited to look back in here and see what I've lost. Yeah, things are going swimmingly. It's not too much, not too exciting. About done with this side. Then I'll take the plywood and these 2x4. Oh, look at that. Nice. All right. Yeah, just gonna keep on going and take those out, and then we'll be pretty much down to just the bare shell, and we'll get working from there. Yes, sir. It's like this thing was sunbathing with a thong on, dude. It's got some tan marks going on here. Well, sadly no treasures. Just a dirty old tear off. So yeah, maybe a treasure to some. But seriously, that looks crazy. I've only ever really known this van with the build that I did it. So to see that whole wall open is actually pretty crazy. Also, definitely made me realize how inefficient I was. Like, using an entire thick 2x4 is definitely not the way to do it. You lose out on so much of the space, and I mean, really all it's doing is holding the wall up. So it's not like it needs to be crazy structural or anything. So yeah, I'm actually really grateful I'm doing this, because it's gonna be vastly improved. I'm actually gonna have more space side to side, and yeah, it's just gonna be sick. So things are rolling here. Shouldn't be too much longer, and I'll have everything out, and then I'll check back in. So you can see we're developing quite a pile of materials back here. So hopefully we can reuse some of that. If not, we'll have ourselves a nice springtime bonfire. Yeah, let's carry on. Wow. It's like the last 4.5 years never even happened. I have not seen it look like this in a hot minute. And let me tell you, that makes me very, very excited. It's kind of funny how it happens. Like when I got the van and it was brand new, I was so excited and so happy to see it built out the way that it was built out, and I was so proud of that. And now it's like I couldn't wait to rip all that out, and it's so refreshing seeing it back to just factory spec. Yeah, very clean in here. As you can see, I'm just a shade under 6'2", and I can stand up perfectly tall, and the top of my beanie just barely scrapes those, so that's gonna be a priority. I know a lot of people will put the furring strips along the bottom and then put plywood under that, but I think what I'm gonna try and do is put the furring strips on the actual top piece here so that it's level. The walls in the ProMaster are also a little bit complex. Has a pretty decent curve to it. The thing that really screws you up is how lipped this piece is right here. It kind of has like these two steps that come out. So clearing this top lip right here kind of brings the whole wall in quite a bit. So I'm going to see if maybe I can notch that out of the studs is what I'm going to call them. And then the other problem area is, let me see if I can kind of show it off here. The bottom has this angled bit just kind of like the top, and it really means that the bottom of the wall has to stick out really far, when really it would be nice to mount them to here. But then the problem is obviously you have this little weird gap right here that you need to fill. So the general layout I'm going for here is about from here to I think about 65 inches will be a couch that will pull out into a bed. At the very end of the couch, I'm gonna have a half wall, and I don't mean halfway tall. It's gonna go from the floor to the ceiling, but it's gonna come out halfway just to kind of block the garage area off a little bit, but still leave an opening on this side to get back into the garage. I've never been a fan of a whole wall that completely separates the garage from the front. I understand people do that to keep fumes out of the sleeping area, but I also am going to be putting one of the electric fans up in the top here, so that should just suck the fumes right out. And if it becomes a problem, my next plan would just be to put a little carrier on the back and put the gas can jugs on that carrier, and that way no fumes would be in here at all. But we'll cross that road when we come to it. I'm just kind of giving you guys a general vibe here. 100% I want a swivel seat on the passenger side, and I think that's gonna be like my office chair, since it's, you know, ergonomic. It's meant to be sat in for a long time, and obviously editing videos takes quite a while. So I want to have a swivel seat and have some sort of table. It might fold out of the door when the door is closed. The table might like fold down out of the wall. Whoa, apologies there. But yeah, something I can set my laptop on and edit these videos. Something I can sit in for a long extended period of time. The problem with like a sleeper sofa is in order to make it like pull out into a bed, they're never that comfortable because the bottom is always like very flat instead of tilted. In order to have a comfortable chair, you kind of need the front like tilted up, so it kind of throws you back into the seat. It's hard to do that on a sofa that pulls out into a bed. But anyways, half wall here, it's gonna go about 36 inches up, and then it's gonna have maybe a 1 foot like countertop almost before continuing the rest of the way up. And then the bike, the front tire will go on the bottom part of the wall. The shelf will come out like right above the front fender and continue on its way up. The other reason I want that half wall is because when you're on this side here, I will then have the half wall come out to about here, and that's where I want to hang like my helmets and stuff. So you gain a little bit of wall space to hang stuff on. And let's say the bike is dirty and I'm trying to sleep. I don't want like a dirty front fender right in my pillow area, you know? So it'll create a little bit of separation, but you'll still have the walkway over here. Then, as I said, the bikes will come in straight, and I'm gonna have some L-track on that bottom piece of half wall there. The bikes will go right into some chocks, tie downs. I'm not gonna be reutilizing the lock and load system. It worked pretty well. I was like relatively happy with it, but dirt would just pile up in those tracks, which would make it really difficult to get the towers in and out. The bottom plates were kind of thin as well, and maybe it's because I run a stiff suspension setup, but the foot pegs pulling up on those plates kind of like warped them over time and made it really difficult to get the uprights in and out. And obviously that's not a problem when I leave them in, but a lot of the time, I mean, this is my daily driver. It's what I go to the store and get, you know, material for house projects and stuff. So if I'm getting, you know, 5 sheets of drywall, I can't leave those in here because the drywall needs to sit flat. So it was a regular thing for me to have to take those in and out. And even when I would get to the track and unload my bike, it was still kind of a little bit of an annoyance to have the towers like sticking up out of the ground. So it's a really cool product. I really enjoyed my time using them. I just think I'm gonna try something else out this time. And if it ends up not working out that well, I can always just put those plates right back down over the floor and we'll be back in business. Only other thing I'm gonna do is build like a little galley, kind of like a work table right here, just so that like if I'm putting tear-offs on goggles or something, you know, that'll be like a little workstation. Upper cabinets right here, upper cabinets above the couch. What else? Probably put like a little mini fridge at the end of the galley, just so I can keep some drinks cold, or you know, coffee creamer or whatever. And then to power the whole thing, I'm going to be utilizing some of the newer power stations. Looking at wiring diagrams and videos of people wiring their vans has kind of steered me away from like building my van out previously. Normally you would have to have solar panels on the roof, bring those in, somehow convert that energy to be stored in a battery, and then you would have to get an inverter to change the power from those batteries into usable power in here. So it can get quite complicated and quite expensive very quickly. I wanted something very easy, so I'm going to be utilizing a power station, which essentially is all of that just built into a little like 45-pound cube. It actually has outlet plugs and USB plugs on the thing itself, so I don't actually really need to add outlets if I don't want to. I probably will anyways, because there are going to be things that I want to leave plugged in where they're at, and I'm not going to be wanting to have to move the power station all around. But the thing I like about the power station is I'm not always using the van. Like for the Pro Nationals, we take the RV and the trailer, besides the first couple where I'm out in California and I'll be living in this thing. But all the East Coast rounds were in the RV and trailer. So let's say I'm not going to be going to a race in the van for a while. I can then take that power station out of the van and plop it in the trailer, and I can utilize that power at the Pro Nationals. I don't have to do some crazy unwiring and disassembly of my electrical system in the van. I can just take it out, bring it with me, plop it in the trailer, put the solar panels up top, and we're good to rip. So the other nice part about that is if I ever decide that the power station isn't sufficient for me, it doesn't have enough storage, or I can't charge it fast enough, I can just sell it and buy a bigger one and not have to worry about upgrading all the individual pieces. I can just swap it out for a bigger power station and we're all good. So yeah, that's the plan. It's going to be a pretty simple build, but very functional. I like to leave it, you know, kind of open because, as I said, I use this thing for a variety of things. So I don't want to have anything too compartmentalized, closed off, and specialized. I want to have it be very functional and versatile. Pretty much the only thing I'm going to need to do is figure out where to put the wall along here. So I need to bring my bike in, close that back door, and kind of figure out how close I can get the rear wheel to the door, and then mark where the front tire ends so I can kind of get an idea of where I'm going to put that wall. And the only thing that it's going to change is basically how big my bed is. Not a huge deal. I kind of sleep on my side curled up, so it's not like I have to have a bed that's 6 foot 2 inches long. So yeah, I suppose that is the next step. Let's do it. All right, well, I ended up doing that off camera because it started to snow and I'm just a one-man band here today, so I decided to get that out of the way before the blizzard picked up too heavily. Not too exciting though, you guys can imagine how it is. I hope you guys enjoyed episode 1. In episode 2, we deal with everything working with the sheet metal on the van, so cutting the hole in the roof for the fan, that was a scary one. Solar panel, kill mat, and I think we tackled the swivel seat as well. So that episode will be coming soon. The build picks up very quickly, so I hope you guys are enjoying. Thank you very much for watching. We will catch you in the next one. Later, guys.